are Sint Maarten. You are Sint Maarten.
The URSM, the Unified Resilient Sint Maarten Movement, being a political movement, will be hosting a weekly radio program called You Are Sint Maarten, every Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m. on the Radio Mix 94.7 FM. I myself, Dr. Messalina, the political leader of URSM, will be hosting this radio program in which current issues, actualities and general topics will be discussed with the people of Sint Maarten. So join us every Wednesday on Radio Mix 94.7 for our radio show You Are Sint Maarten.
You are Sint Maarten. You are Sint Maarten.
Dear people of Sint Maarten, good evening. Welcome to your weekly radio program You Are Sint Maarten on Radio Mix 94.7 FM. As you know, I myself, Dr. Messalina, will be your host in this radio program. And as you know, I am the surgeon serving the patients, the people of Sint Maarten, since 1999 in Sint Maarten. And next to that, I am the founder and the political leader of the URSM, the Unified Resilient Sint Maarten Movement, since the 10th 2021. As you know, due to the current condition and or actually how the country is being run, that has been my inspiration for me to found this political movement with the hope that we will get from the URSM the mandate from the people of Sint Maarten to improve, to contribute our part to improve the livelihood of all of us here in Sint Maarten. As you know, we're going to contest the upcoming election with this URSM, this Unified Resilient Sint Maarten Movement. And actually, we are ready, we are prepared for any time that the Prime Minister mentions the date of election. We are ready to contest the upcoming election. It's a pity that politics is being played with this date that is not being mentioned. I think it's unfortunate and unnecessary because the country is now in such devastation that I really think that's no time to play politics. But it's now in the hands of the Prime Minister, and actually if you follow the law, there is not much space to play with the date of the elections. But okay, we will have still to respect the authority of the Prime Minister. But to tell you honest, if we want a really change in the planned date for election, that is actually in January, something very drastic will have to take place, namely that the government should fall. I think it's no time now to play politics and let a government fall just to actually place the date of elections earlier than January. That means that you will get it the earliest in November. You really think that we're going to let a whole government of Sint Maarten fall just because we want to play politics with the date that is set for the elections for country Sint Maarten. I think it's very sad that the Prime Minister is not giving a firm date when elections are, but okay, it's in her hands, and we just wait with patience, because at the end of the day, it's about getting the mandate of the people for the upcoming 4 governing years for country Sint Maarten. As you know, the URSM believes in informing and educating the people of Sint Maarten. And of course, we are a party that believes in a very healthy balance between economic growth of a country and the social welfare for the country and the people of this beautiful island. At this particular moment, we are having every week on a weekly basis a radio program in which current issues and matters concerning the people of Sint Maarten are being discussed. As usual, we have a candidate with us in our weekly radio program, and today I invited one of our promising candidates of the URSM, the Unified Resilient Sint Maarten Movement, in the name of Mr. Jason Matthew, that will contest on the slate of the URSM the upcoming elections. Mr. Matthew, it's a long introduction before I started with you, but welcome to our radio program. You are Sint Maarten, and before I give you the floor, I want to inform you and also inform the people of Sint Maarten that we are very, very, very honored and blessed to have professionals like Jason Matthew with us on our slate. Mr. Jason Matthew, welcome.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you for the seat. Thank you for the invitation. Good evening, listeners of Radio 94.7. I'm Jason Oliver Matthew. I introduce myself. I'm 41-year-old, born and raised on the island Curaçao. I attended my primary school and after that my secondary school, Zwijzen College, where I completed. After completing my education of secondary school, I went to Holland for my future education as pharmacist assistant. I'm currently employed as pharmacist assistant by St. Peter's Pharmacy and Bouchard Pharmacy. I know for behind immensely helpfully and always willing to get extra mile to assist people when and whenever I can. That's mean most of the people know me from the pharmacies in Sint Maarten as the helpfully guy. Let me start why I decide to run the upcoming election in Sint Maarten. It's more to stimulate young people to engage themselves politically, particularly to vote. Political participation is one of the best ways for people of Sint Maarten to make a substantial change to their community. Because always we stand outside and we sit and we still complaining about this not going good, and why we don't associate ourselves with a political party and try to make or to bring change in this island, Sint Maarten. My reason I decided to be part of the URSM party is because the party strongly believes in principle of democracy, upholding the rules and law of the country, freedom, upholding and honoring human values and fundamental rights. The URSM party has been established to take care of the needs, hopes, and aspirations of the peoples of Sint Maarten. URSM strongly believes in governing with principles, morals, integrity, transparency, accountability, and vision. URSM party will lead by example, and leading by example creates believers for the people of the country.
Fantastic. Yes. So, Jason, you thought good about it before you made a decision for which political party you're going to choose actually to postulate yourself, and actually the URSM is very, very, very happy to have one more professional on the slate of the URSM. Jason, you're an educated man. You went to the Netherlands to study, and you are a pharmacist assistant now working in 2 pharmacies on the island.
Yes.
How long are you now a pharmacist assistant in your career?
I finished my school in 2004.
Yes.
And I started working from 2004 already in pharmacists in Holland. After that, I went back to Curaçao after 11 years that I was living in Holland. I worked for a couple of years in Curaçao, and after that I moved to Sint Maarten. But Sint Maarten was more as an experience because the company where I was working for sent me here to help them out. And by that I started loving Sint Maarten. And now my heart is in Sint Maarten.
Wow, this is great. And you know what, Jason, what we see since we founded this political party, to our big surprise in a positive way, a lot of professionals or young professionals are approaching me to see if there's an option and a possibility for them to join this political movement, because we have to try to get more and more professionals in politics, knowledgeable, educated people, because at the end of the day our country is in such serious challenges that we really need knowledgeable people to guide and help us with the necessary action plans to make this country great again. And that's why I'm very, very happy, Jason, to have a young professional like you with us on the URSM slate. Jason, you're a man in healthcare.
Yes.
And we have a lot of challenges in the healthcare. I don't know if you let your mind go about things that you think we should pay more attention to when we're going to sit in government as of January.
Yes, of course. We have a lot to change.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not easy to, let me say, it's not 1, 2, 3 that you change everything.
Yeah.
But we need to start at somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Because every day in a pharmacy, you're facing people. Outside, you're facing people. And you see how people suffer.
Yes.
People complaining.
Mm-hmm.
And I think by now is the time that the people realize to make the decision
Mm-hmm.
to bring new people in,
Yeah.
to make this island moving a certain way.
Yes.
Because suffering is a part of life, but when you are suffering, it's you kill yourself, let me say that.
Yes. And it's killing the country too. Eh?
Yes.
I mean, individually people suffer, but at the end of the day, the poverty is going to have such an impact in society that it's going to hamper not the individual development of citizens of the country, but it hampers the evolution and development of the country itself. And that's why this poverty also, that is actually hampering our evolution, is one of the agenda points of the URSM. Another one, of course, is the one that we are both in, Jason. You are in the pharmacy section of healthcare, and I'm, of course, in the hospital. We can start talking, for example, about the hospital, for example.
Yes, because at the moment, a lot of people are asking themselves how far they are with the hospital.
Yes.
The hospital construction, current situation.
Yep.
You have a lot of problem at the hospital. People come and complain about the waiting list for appointment to visit a specialist.
Yeah.
People coming, complaining about every time when they go to hospital, they have a new doctor. And at such a time, they confusing. It confuses the people between the doctors and the specialists, because every time you have a new one coming in.
Yeah, exactly. I will tell you a lot about this, Jason. That's one of my priorities once we are in. The first one is the waiting lists for our people of Sint Maarten. The waiting list has to do with the amount of specialists that we have available to serve the community with. And of course, the high demands on the other side to see a specialist. One of the biggest problems, and I have said it many times, is that in the way our law is established, it's very difficult to get specialists in Sint Maarten because they have to adhere, I think, unnecessary to the law that controls the establishment of specialists in the Kingdom of the Netherlands. And we have to adhere to a big registration, is the beroepen in gezondheidszorg law, that makes that actually, you are actually making it only possible for specialists from the Netherlands to come and help us here with our patient care. And at the end of the day, it does not say much, this law, because actually, if I said it many times too, if you have a patient here that you send, for example, for neurosurgical intervention to Colombia, and you have a neurosurgeon in Colombia operating the patient, very successful, by the way. But if you ask this neurosurgeon now to come to Sint Maarten to do the same procedure on territory of the kingdom, then all of a sudden the man is incompetent if you follow the big law that we are upholding here to give specialists green light to work in Sint Maarten. I have, and I said it many times, I have a draft law at place that we are going to actually introduce after working it out in Parliament and to the Council of Advice for us to approve a law that is going to actually replace this big registration, that we will have our own national healthcare professional registry for Country Sint Maarten, that we as professionals are in our law system are going to, for ourselves, determine the type of specialists that we need in our country, and that we can look for them in the entire world, not only being obliged to look for these specialists in the Netherlands. Further, this statement that you made, Mr. Jason, is that, of course, and I understand it, and I agree also with it. You just made a statement about every time patients go to the hospital,
Yes.
they are encountered with a new face, a new doctor, and actually this doctor is just here temporarily for 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then he leaves again.
Yes.
And I do not believe that this setup is guaranteeing good continuity for the care of the patients by every time replacing this doctor. And secondly, the patient will never get accustomed to a very important healthcare provider in his or her specific case, because I think you should have to build up a relationship with your doctor too, on the way going to solve your problem. And every time you go, you're going to start again explaining the next new doctor your problem. And once you have the feeling that he understands me and we agreed upon what we're going to do and what treatment we're going to follow, the next time you go, you see that this gentleman left already and you have a new face, and you have to start completely again with your telling your story. And I think that is not good. And I realize it as a doctor very good. And that is also one of the reasons that I decided to go in politics, is because I think that this reality has to be changed. And the fact that I'm a professional, especially in the hospital, in the position that I am, I cannot change it from the inside. So I have to go on a other level, being in government, making sure that we have the power in parliament, that we can actually bring new laws for the country. And one of them is, for example, change this big registration law for a national professional registry that we are going to make for ourselves, that we as a nation can determine who are the specialists that we're going to let in our country. And I agree completely with you about this this frequent change of faces.
Yes.
Jason, you just spoke just now also about the construction of the hospital.
Yes,
That
because I want to ask you, Doc, because you are working there, and I want to ask you if you can tell us or tell the country what's going on, or what we can expect, or when.
Yeah. You know, Jason, there are a few things going on in that hospital. I'm not in management of that hospital. I'm just one of the ones working on the work floor, and I have my ideas about what should happen with that hospital. But as you know, in the past, I was one that was against constructing that hospital in that very, very small corner there by the roundabout. And we are realizing now that it's a too congested building to place in that property. I did everything I could to stop the continuation of the construction plans that they had in that time for it. But okay, unfortunately, I did not get through to stop it because the deals were far ahead made already. But okay, it's there and we have to continue with it. It's a decision that has been made. A lot of money has been spent already in that corner, so we have to proceed. And at the end of the day, it's about the bigger picture. We need a hospital for our people in our country. But we have a big challenge, and the biggest challenge that we have with this hospital is that I think it's not clear enough for all stakeholders what is now the financial groups, the consortium now that is forming the group of those financing the project of the hospital. And everybody say we don't see much going on. And actually what they're saying is there is no money to pay, and as long as you don't pay, you're not going to get construction work.
Of course not.
And I think the biggest problem now that we are encountering in this hospital is that there is no evident, clear vision about the total picture of how this project, huge project, is going to be financed by country Sint Maarten. They have some stakeholders, but that money is not enough, I can assure you that. And I do believe personally that this project is a too big project for country Sint Maarten, I think this hospital had to be made and constructed in a bigger context, being the kingdom of the Netherlands. I think it had to be built by all stakeholders in the kingdom, not only Sint Maarten. And of course, we would like to finance this project ourselves, but actually we do not have the firm finance stability that we could finance this whole project. So actually, this hospital is being stagnated in its process of construction because of lack of finance. That is what I continuously say. And we should call a meeting with all stakeholders and get clarity about what monies has been spent already.
Yes, of course.
Where did this money go? And how much money is still left over to finalize this project. And you will be very, very surprised to hear that actually the financing of this hospital is still a big challenge for country Sint Maarten. Thirdly, we are building a hospital, Jason. I am continue saying that. We are building a structure. We must not build a structure if we want to build a hospital. We have to build the concept hospital. What do I mean with that? Building a hospital is not building a construction structure. It's building a whole concept. And until today, I continue repeating that we did not define what is the level of care that we want to service this country with. Do we want neurosurgery? If yes, are we going to do back surgery, hernias, lumbar spine surgery? Are we going to do cervical spine surgery? Are we going to remove brain tumors here in Sint Maarten or not? All these questions has not been adequately posed. But we are already building the operating theaters. But we have to ask ourselves, are we going to make use of a neurosurgeon? And if that is the case, we will have to build an operating room that is going to service and facilitate the neurosurgeon to do what he has to do. But so we are building rooms and thinking that a hospital is a few rooms with beds in it and that's it. No, it's a whole concept that you are building. The same, for example, next to the example that I gave about neurosurgery is, for example, heart surgery. Are we going to do heart surgery? Are we going to do catheterization? There are a lot of questions that has to be answered if we want to continue building the hospital. But as you know, as usual, we start something, and at the end of the day, I do believe that a part of the initiation of the construction of this hospital was also managed not by the correct people. I dare to say that because I do believe you really need good professional people in this in the field of healthcare.
That's for sure.
To call shots with you, to take the right decision. And the first wrong decision was that I think that hospital where it's built is the wrong place for Sint Maarten. But as I said already in my interview, that decision has been made already. It was a political decision. We have to continue with it because it's there already. But it's so painful to see that still they are putting a lot of money in the old structure, and they know in 3-4 years from now, if we get so far, they're going to demolish this whole old hospital for the new hospital to come there. I find it capital destruction for a country that is in need already. But okay. So concerning the hospital, Jason, progress of the hospital on short term is getting clarity in the finance of the construction of the hospital. That's the first thing.
Yes.
And secondly, asking yourself, okay, what purpose it's going to serve this building? What are we going to do, all of us, in this hospital? So what type and level of healthcare is this building going to sell to us? You need knowledgeable people that have a good vision about healthcare to say, okay, for the population of Sint Maarten, this is the right specialties to offer to the people. And once we get to a higher level, we will say, no, this is still where we get. And the rest of the patients we are going to send abroad. You see, for example, the hospital of Curaçao, this Curaçao Medical Center. Although the fact that it costs the society 800 million, yes, they still send patients to Colombia, for example. Yes. So they decided to build a huge building, and at the end of the day, they still do not have all the specialties that actually you should have once you decide to spend 800 million to build a hospital. I think you should be able then, if you have And if you pretend that you can build a hospital of 800 million, that means that you are very, very sure of the fact that you're going to offer this community a lot in healthcare. And at the end of the day, the building is there, and they still have a high budget for patients that they refer abroad.
Yes.
That means that wrong decisions has been taken once they decided to build this hospital. Jason, I can continue the whole day with you about this hospital.
Yeah, because that's why. Because last I was watching the news and I saw like somewhere in South America they built a hospital for a couple of millions. And I'm like, why we should have to spend out so much money and still we don't get clarified to the folk of Sint Maarten when, how long it's gonna take.
Yes, and you know, Jason, it's the people's money too. Realize that good. We are looking at the building. Nobody has the courage to say, guys, let's stop now with what we're doing. Let's see what is going wrong, because every day that the hospital stays in the phase that it is, it's only costing more money. So you will have to have the courage in government to say, guys, let's stop this construction now. Make a new balance, see where we're standing, and what is the direction that we're going to continue. I think that is the first thing that has to happen once the URSM is in. And an audit for me to know what happened with all those millions that has been invested in this project. I want to see where all this money went until now. And I think an audit is at its place for us to know and have actually accountability and transparency to the monies from the people of Sint Maarten that are being used for the construction of a good purpose, by the way, the hospital. But we have to start now being transparent and accountable for the decisions that we take for the country. Because the people put you there, Jason, for you to mind their business, for you to arrange their necessities. We as a government are there only to facilitate the people. So if they put the URSM in, we are going to sit there to facilitate the people with healthcare. But we have to first know and audit the place and see where did all this money go, because I am very curious to know how much money has been invested already in this hospital and why we are still in this primordial phase with the construction of the hospital. I dare to ask that question, and people know that I dare to do that, because in the past already in Parliament, I was standing alone when I was battling my battle with the former minister of one of the former ministers of health, showing him that we should not build that hospital with the money from the pension fund from the SZV, because the money from the pension fund had a other destiny, but he still wanted to show us that he's going to start the initiation of this building of this hospital with pension fund money, and I disagreed with that, and all knows the consequences of this disagreement that we had with each other. But okay, that is history. We have to focus on the future, and the URSM wants to be in government to contribute its part for us to finalize with knowledgeable people the construction of this hospital for the people of Sint Maarten.
That I agreed with you, Doc. I agreed with you. This means we need to bring an audit so the people know about the money, where it went. This means that is transparency.
Yes.
So the people know for sure where the money gone, and to know the status from what's going to happen after.
Of course. Jason, we are talking about, of course, a very interesting topic, but time is flying on us. We're going to take a small break, and we will be back in a few minutes. Okay. Dear people of Sint Maarten, welcome to your radio program, You Are Sint Maarten, on the Radio Mix 94.7. As you know, we're going to continue now with the second half of our radio program, You Are Sint Maarten, on the Radio Mix 94.7. And today, as you know, we have with us as guest Mr. Jason Matthew. And Mr. Jason Matthew is a young professional, a pharmacist assistant, and he's working here in Sint Maarten. And actually a young professional, and he decided also that he's going to join as a young professional the slate of the URSM, the Unified Resilient Sint Maarten movement, that is going to contest the upcoming parliamentary elections for country Sint Maarten. I was speaking with Jason before we started our radio program, and Jason, as we were discussing, you were very, very worried and concerned with the mental health care status of our country, and also a lot of young people that you call the dropouts of our community. Tell me about that, Jason.
Yes, Doc. It's last couple of months, I realized I see much more people walking around, young people walking around, especially there on the Bush Road. You can see I think 5 already.
Yep.
People walking around and helpless, asking for financial aid. And I'm like, do the government something? Or some places that do something for those people. I know we have a mental health foundation, but I don't know how far it is with those people that they get help, or yes or no. But it's very sad to see those people every day, because I'm also young and I see people young, like people with future in hand, but they drop out, they're helpless and walking around, dirty clothes, smelling bad. I'm like, no, this not good. This is not correct for a small island like Sint Maarten.
Yeah, and Jason, the phenomena of a increase in these persons on the public roads, as you said, the dropouts of the community, that is actually a signal that as a caring community we are failing. And as you know, we have our challenges with the mental health care, and I really believe that we have to start thinking about a way to take care of these dropouts too and take them off the street. And I sometimes think that they are a danger for themselves too. Recently I was driving and thinking, actually, if you see how they go through between the cars, taking over the road without looking, we have to be very careful not to hit them. I think they are becoming a danger for themselves. And we have to think about, actually the URSM thought about it, that we need an institution that we can guide these people back to society, and most of them, of course, are involved in drugs abuse that brought them so far. But at the end of the day, we will have to try to rehabilitate them. We have our turning point, but actually that is not enough in our approach to this group. The other side, this group is getting bigger and bigger, Matthew, and it has to do, of course, with the increasing poverty in our community. And of course, the poor education that we are offering the people of Sint Maarten. You know that poverty works also against a healthy education system for a country. So we have to combat this poverty of Sint Maarten, and we have to work on a more structural education system for Sint Maarten that actually also works in adjusting the needs of the labor market in a way that we can educate people that are going to benefit from the labor market of country Sint Maarten. Not only the poverty and the poor education of the country, but also the unemployment is contributing to these dropout figures. And I think another one that we are forgetting every time again is lack of social housing. These people do not have a place to stay, and sometimes where they're coming from, their families, they are living already in small houses. This gentleman comes with his bad behavior after drugs abuse. They're going to leave them out the house. The poor guy is going to, because the house cannot accommodate everybody. The chances are big that it's going to be dangerous for the ones in the house. At a certain moment, they're going to make choices, and then these guys are going to stay outside the house. So we will have to work on better social housing accommodation for the people of Sint Maarten. It's always a combination of poverty, lack of good education, lack of good structural organized after-school activity for the youth. It has to do with unemployment, and it has to do with lack of social housing for the people of Sint Maarten. These are attention points from the URSM. So, Jason, it's a big concern for you and for me, and as you know, we are working on solutions and see how we're going to tackle this problem, because I do not see much movement from this government, although, as you said, it's very alarming to see how many young dropouts we have now walking on the sideline of the roads. And I really believe something has to happen to change this street image that we are having now in Sint Maarten.
Yeah, because one time I tried to make a conversation with one of them, and I asked him, what's the reason you on the road? What's the reason you look like this? And he told me, no, everybody left the house When I came home, nobody was there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what he was telling me not was so true.
Mm-hmm.
That means I think those people will need really help, mental health, and they need care.
Yes. And we touched base also on social housing, Jason. We spoke about lack of good housing accommodation for the people of Sint Maarten. And as you know, the URSM has this idea about the concept of rent to own. We believe after 15 years of renting a social house, it should be yours. Not only because you have paid enough for that house, but secondly, it empowers the next generation. That at the end of the day, the next generation will have a own house, a property that they can use as an extra asset or a collateral when they go to the bank for a loan to start a small business, for example. At least they have a collateral to sit and negotiate with the bank for their own good and their own future. So the URSM is also working on concept of improving the social housing in a way that we can go from rent to on the long term after 15 years. It becomes ownership of those that have been renting for 15 years. Another one is to accommodate the other group that has an income that is a little more than those that are in need of social housing. I call that the sector of affordable housing for young professionals, for example. If you have a professional being a policeman married with somebody that works in the administration of an insurance company, they have two respectable jobs, and still it's not enough to get a loan.
No, because that's a problem too, to get a mortgage, because you see also a lot of young people living in rent houses, and they tell you, yes, because when I go to the bank, I don't can get a mortgage, but every day when I hear on the radio, see in the newspaper, I see making advertisement come for a car loan. But we need to also explain our youth, our new generation coming, that buying a car, that don't mean nothing. You need to first try to get the opportunity to buy a house.
Yes.
Because you start invest, because that's an investment what you do. And how early you start, how better it is for yourself, for your family.
Of course. It's a totally different mindset that we have to try to get the populace on. But it used to be like that, Jason. People from the elder generation, they used to be hardworking people, with a lot of discipline, commitment, and they came and they got their houses in life, So we will have to, of course, it is now a different time, much more difficult. Yes. Everything is more expensive. The unemployment rate is higher, but still the bank loans, the interest rates of the banks are actually too high to give the middle class, especially the lower sector of the middle class, the opportunity to purchase a house, a property. And I think we will have to help them. A way to do that, Jason, is we always talk about solution. And I said it many times, it's to start with a development bank. In Dutch we say an ontwikkelingsbank, in which we can give out loans, mortgages at a low interest rate. And in that way, you can help them, because then the interest rate is low enough that they can afford
it. Yes.
Yes, of course. But these are things that we will have to work on in the nearby future.
But we're touching on employment. But I'm asking myself, Doc, on the island we have a lot of projects going on. Mm-hmm. Everywhere where you drive around, you will see the building and the creating work. But is the people lazy to go work, or what's the problem that we have unemployment on the island?
Yes, Jason, I thought many times about that too, because you see a lot of foreigners working also in construction. Nothing against, by the way, nothing against. But I do believe that we, from our community, are not preparing our younger generation to get in the field of construction. So we don't work. In the past, for example, I remember you used to have the education level of LTS. Yes, you could learn a profession. You could become a carpenter, for example. Nowadays, who in Sint Maarten is seriously being educated to become a professional good carpenter, as in the time that the LTS used to do that with the young people. And the problem is that we have a education system that is keeping the kids going in education every day, but it's not adjusted to the requirements and necessities of the labor market of the country. And that is our problem.
Okay.
We have to start now thinking, do we need in construction carpenters? We will have to have an institution that educate our youngsters to become carpenters. It's just to give an example, but everybody realizes that we have lack of professionals in the field of construction, but nobody is doing anything. So the guys that live here, that are born here, they raise up, but they do not have the ability to meet the demands of what we need on our labor market at this particular moment. So we will have to stimulate them and educate them so they can have those jobs once the economy is flourishing and construction is on the go again.
That's why I was thinking that when we get in the government, that we need to do something about it.
Yes, of course, we have to, because otherwise we will create more construction sites, but we have to entertain more and more and more foreigners to keep these projects going. Yeah. And while our unemployment rate for our national people is just increasing with the day. So something is wrong. We will have to adjust the necessities with what we can offer to the construction world, for example, in the nearby future of Sint Maarten. So, Jason, we have a lot of challenges in this community. We have decided that we are going to go with this new political party, the URSM, Unified Resilient Sint Maarten Movement. And as I can tell you, Jason, I realize every day that campaigning in Sint Maarten is a very difficult challenge because people still want to use old politics strategies to campaign with. And the URSM is not into that. We have a package that we are offering to the people of Sint Maarten, Jason. It's, guys, Sint Maarten is sinking, so we are a new party, Jason, that are offering a lot to the people of Sint Maarten. And I hope that the people are realizing that we have to change course direction with this country.
Of course, it's time to do that. That's why also I will stay to the peoples that have right to vote. Mm-hmm. To tell them this is a very important moment. It's always allows you to decide who governs your country. This could affect many areas of your life, including access to the healthcare, education, and employment. Mm-hmm. Yes, man, I will stay to them in January, if the election date is January, to come out, please, and go vote. Don't stay home and stay telling others, no, I don't go vote because when the government said they don't worry with us, it's not like that. USM, we knew. Just give us the opportunity and we can deal with the situation. We want to try bit by bit to help everybody because we need to move on. We don't can stay at the same place. We need to move on.
Yes, Jason, I'm also realizing that the change has to come, and I'm convinced that the URSM will be in the upcoming new government of Country Sint Maarten. And Jason, I'm experiencing on a daily basis that a mindset change is taking place in this country. People are, of course, in need at this particular moment, and people still believe, and political parties still believe, that they can manipulate the people of the country and give them a financial compensation for their vote. I'm telling you, Jason, that is not going to happen anymore. Those that do it, I condemn, but those that do it, the other ones that are going to accept that money, I can give you that guarantee, they're going to take the money of those political parties, but they're not going to vote for them. I'm telling you, because people are realizing in this country that the time is there for a radical change for this island. So there is a good mindset change going on here in Sint Maarten, and people really realize that continuing the way we are doing it is not going to work for our Sint Maarten. And a lot of political parties still now are working on that base of that old political school vision. Yes. We're going to just throw something in them and hopefully they will vote for us. Forget it, guys. People are now awake. They know what they want for the country. And they realize, Jason, that the URSM is a great alternative for Country Sint Maarten, and hopefully the people will not disappoint us, but they will not disappoint themselves, because at the end of the day they vote for the prosperity for themselves.
Yes.
They have to realize that they're not voting to please me or you. They are voting actually to please the prosperity of their future life in this country. So they have to be careful for who they're going to vote in the upcoming elections.
Yeah, that's why I want to tell them also, because URSM will move Sint Maarten forward, ensuring the people will not be left behind.
Yeah.
This means you have the opportunity to come out and go vote. You stay home, come out, because this is for your own future, for your next generation what's coming, for your grandchildren, for your children. This means come out and go vote.
Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to the end of our radio program. Today we had as guest Mr. Jason Matthew. Mr. Jason Matthew is a pharmacist assistant working here in Sint Maarten. He's a young professional. We are very honored to have a gentleman, a young professional as Jason Matthew with us on our political slate. I'm asking you, please give a candidate as Jason Matthew a opportunity, a chance by the upcoming elections, because these are young professionals that are the future of and the Sint Maarten of tomorrow. Jason, a last word for the people listening to you.
My last word is my slogan. Promise less and try to plan together to achieve more for the country Sint Maarten.
That's a very good one.
We hope that all you of Sint Maarten that have the right to vote come out and give our young professionals the chance to come in the government.
Fantastic.
And we're going to do it different than the others.
And we're going to do it together with you, the people of Sint Maarten, because the URSM puts the people and the country above self. Jason, once more, thank you very, very much for taking your time out to be with us today in our radio program, You Are Sint Maarten. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you two, for being with us in this radio program. And I'm looking forward to have you back next week, Wednesday, from 6 to 7 p.m. on Radio Mix 94.7 FM. Have a great evening.